All right. So, Paul, I'm excited to have you as always. It's so nice for you and I to have conversations. I truly respect your work, and being your facilitator, but also medium, has really allowed me to grow. And I love bringing this to other people. And so I'm excited we can have this conversation on your progressive, because it's been a big impact to my mediumship, even as a tutor myself. I've really grown. And I think the world needs to hear how you view your teachings, and especially how you structure your progressive, because there is such a beautiful result at the end of the year.
That's true. Teaching for me has changed slightly to how it used to be when I was a student. And today, a lot of teaching is done by set lesson plans from class to class, session to session. And I don't believe you can actually teach mediumship like that, particularly when you've got a progressive mentorship group, because, how can you put a lesson plan together? I know what I want to achieve by the end of the course, the year's course. But, until you've gathered your students together and to get to know them and see them as a person, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, you cannot do a rigid 12-month program with those rigid barriers. Even when I'm teaching, say, at the Arthur Findlay College, and I'm there for a week, I know what I want to cover and reach in a week, but I cannot do a lesson plan. We have 4 groups a day. And I might think one particular day, right, I'll do this in the first session, this in the second, this in the third, and this in the fourth. And it never works out, because it depends what happens with the students as individuals in that first session will then may change in what I need to do that's suitable for certain individuals. So when you have a group of people together, you've got to adapt the sessions and the time in each time we come together for a day, depending on the needs of the individual students. So, this rigid machine type teaching doesn't really work, because there's many aspects, it's, we've got to look at, when maybe they're coming to a new teacher saying, they've never been to me before, then, my teaching and my way may be different to what they've been used to. So then I need to then put them into a different mindset. And that's not easy to do. And that will cause the student to have struggles. But, some of the mentorship groups I've been running the last few years, I had one student say to me today, she says, Paul, I know I struggled with you and I fought with you and I had trouble with you. She says, but everywhere I go now, people say, where are you learning from? We've seen the change in your mediumship. So I have to say to the students sometimes, if you do have struggles with the new mindsets I'm putting you into, go through the pain barrier with it, because I know if you persevere with it, I know it'll make a difference with your mediumship. And it's not just me saying that, I can name you well-known teachers in the world. I can name you very good top teachers from the Arthur Findlay College, and they've been trained by me. And what I taught them to get where they got is what I'm teaching all my students. I have to accept, if you want a class with me that's all love and light and fluffy, bunnies and pretty rainbows, then I'm not the right teacher, but I know what I teach works. And you see, if you look at any profession, anybody who's talented or gifted in anything, if you speak to them to reach the top of what they do, they'll all speak about the mentor who gave them the discipline. And I feel today in teaching of mediumship, there's not enough discipline. Yes, we can enjoy it. There's joy within mediumship and learning mediumship. But, if people just come in to feel nice and feel good and have a bit of fun, then the mediumship's not going to get.
Paul, you talk about discipline, but one of the things that I've learned with you, or at least in my observation in sitting, facilitating, working, doing your exercises, that comes from the passion that you've built in 30 years plus of being in this industry and the respect that you have for the spirit world. You have no no tolerance for a medium saying, this is what they're saying, and them not being sure perhaps, or, you know, you really wanting to say, look, go in more so you can be the correct information that you are receiving, that the Spirit's trying to express.
Yes, you see what's happened also over these years is what we've done. Even though mechanics, technique, and structure are important and have a part to play, the teaching today has taken away the naturalness. It's all like a machine, okay? And what it is now, it's like the mediums or the students you're controlling the communication. You know, what we have to do is put the naturalness first, you know, because if we're doing all this structure first and mechanics first, then what we're doing, we're staying in our conscious mind instead of moving into the higher mind and into the power of the communicator. You know, you've got to remember there's an intelligence in the spirit world. They know what they want to bring as information. They know what you're capable of receiving, and they know which is the best way for you to receive it. So if you're having this mechanical, rigid teaching and training by your teachers, you've got to see, you've got to get this, you've got to give it in this way, you've got to give it in that order, then all you're doing is causing a barrier to the spirit world, and your mediumship won't reach its full potential, and the quality in that communication won't take place. Yes, technique and structure. But I say to my very experienced students, once they get to a certain stage, I'll say, now, when you begin a contact now, I want you to forget everything I've taught you. My mantra is, when I begin to work with a contact, I surrender, I trust, bring me whatever evidence you want to bring in whatever way I can receive it. And wow, if we all did that, and truly did that, it would make a total difference to our mediumship. It really would, you know. But you're told, you know, you've got to give this, that, and even in what order. It's destroying this. It's destroying the communication.
And that goes back to what you always say to us, which is, let the spirit lead. Don't lead.
That's
let
right.
the spirit lead. And that's why you break the topics in what you teach monthly based on the need of the class, and I love that.
That's right. You know, it really is. I mean, I said to a group I took the other week, I said, you know, if you look at all the classes we've had together, I may put you in a rigid box to work with a particular faculty to get you to understand that. I said, but if you listen to all the classes we've had, I never tell you what you've got to give as evidence. Who am I to tell you what to give as evidence as the medium? And who are you to tell the spirit world what you want as evidence? It insults the intelligence of the spirit world. Really does.
Absolutely. So in 12 months, you know, let's say there's 12 topics you want to teach, but you decide the order of those topics based on what you see with the students monthly.
That's right. I mean, I had a group, I'll be honest with you, they're in the second year, and there was this day I was having with them, and I said, you're going to have to forgive me, ladies and gentlemen. I says, well, I'm going to have to take you right back to something we did early in the first year, because you're just not incorporating it in your mediumship, you know. And then I'll say, right, this session, we're going to work with this because so-and-so and so-and-so needs to bring this element in. So, you know, yes, they may all do near enough the same exercises, but I'll bring different exercises in depending of the need of different individuals in the class.
And in those 12 months, you cover individual readings, demonstrations, you cover mediumship, the need of it, you break it down, meeting the need psychically. You so many things. That's just a few I can think off the top of my head, but I mean, you cover a lot of what you need to have a strong foundation in your reading.
That's right. You see, and this is the difficulty, if you don't build your mediumship on a strong foundation, because it's not easy when you're out there in the real world doing this. And if you haven't built your mediumship on a strong foundation, you're gonna crumble at the first negative experience you'll have when you're working with the public.
You even cover getting past the nose, which I
That's
think
fine.
so
Yeah.
important because that can either make you or break you in your development. At that point, I think students say, I'm done. Why am I doing this?
Yeah,
This is
I've
too
had,
stressful.
I've had the small recently. I've seen a lot of teachers advertising on the internet doing classes on embracing and dealing with the nose, and they've took it from me. I never saw anybody teaching that before. It's like now I do colour and the soul, which I learned from Gordon Higginson. I'm seeing nearly every teacher now advertising colour and the soul. I never heard anybody use that before.
Tell me a little bit of you mentioned Gordon Higginson, but who is he and how did you come into being where you're at today?
I mean, the last 100 years, Gordon Higginson was the finest medium there was. Yeah, he had every mediumistic aspect, and he took me under his wing, and he was a lovely man, and he was really nice to everybody and to students in general. But if he thought you got something, it was a hard taskmaster. He'd say to me publicly sometimes in front of 80 students, Paul, do you think you're going backwards rather than forwards? But I didn't crumble. He made me determined to reach what he wanted. And then another time I remember I did this contact and I was so pleased with it. And he said, have you finished? I said, yes. He said, so you don't want to be a good medium? I said, yes. And this again in front of 80, 90 students. He said, instead of telling me the lady had a piano, tell me what she played on the piano. Instead of telling me there was that frame on top of the piano, tell me what was in the frame. And I got back up, I did it. And he says, now that's the difference between an average medium and a good medium. And you see, if the students only want an easy time, they want a teacher telling them everything they do is wonderful and lovely and nice and sweet, they're not going to reach that something more. And that's what I'm looking for. Yeah. And there's no reason you cannot be that something more. Okay. But if you're not going to strive and go through those barriers, then you're never going to reach that full potential. And it doesn't make sense, because the spirit world isn't going to say, or God's not going to say, right, I want two mediums. I want Lillian and I want Paul. I really like Lillian, so I'm going to give Lillian a really good ability. I'm not so keen on Paul, so I'll give him an ability a little bit less than Lillian. It doesn't make sense. If you've got the ability, then the level you can reach depends on you as an individual. There's no limitation except the limitation of yourself, okay, and the lack of trust, the lack of discipline, and the determination to work through those struggles and pain barriers to get there.
Absolutely. And I facilitate for you, Paul. It's been a couple years now, and I also teach. But I really enjoy the time hearing your structures, your discipline, and I take them in. And I too have people saying, wow, what are you doing? Because every year it feels like you're bringing in more specific information and I could feel the spirit more. And that's the end result that I see, not only with myself working with you, but also your students, is that there's a feeling of the soul's presence. Like you say to us, if you have a 20-minute meeting, 15 minutes out of that 20 minutes should be all about your recipient.
That's right. In the class, you've got to realize that when we put you in rigid exercises, you're not always going to get the result the first time. And I say to students, I don't expect you every time I give you something to do to have a perfect result. I says, actually, I can teach you more from what goes wrong. You really can. And, really, a lot of what I teach, say, especially in demonstrating medium, comes from me messing it up and getting it wrong when I was working as a medium in the real situation myself.
Yeah,
I've learned. So it's taught me not what to do, okay, to stop it happening so much, and what to do when it does happen. So so really, every medium has got to learn to embrace and deal and handle the nose, because of the truthful, there is no medium in the world who will never not get a no. So accept it. We're all going to get a no. But if you're going to allow, and as Gordon said, if you allow a no to affect you, it will bring the barriers down straight away. And you'll lose
You know what, Paul? That is the one strength that I feel, the biggest strength I feel I've gained with you, because you say, and I always remember this, when I get the no now, I move through it gracefully, because I know, like you say to us, you're human. You might express it one way, but then if you really grab onto it again and express it again, you're
That's
going
right.
to really grab onto the blending of what it's saying, what you're receiving,
Yeah, that's
without
right.
fear or disappointment.
That's right. That's
So,
correct. You know, but you know, it's well, when I work as a medium, even when I get a no, the recipient might have the right to say no. Yeah. So the odd occasion when they say the no, I know I have to put my hands up and just simply say, okay, I'm wrong with that. Yeah. I
mhm.
don't have a problem doing that. And the audience don't, if you're honest. There are other times when I know I'm right with what I've received, say from my clairvoyance, but my mind has guessed and presumed what the clairvoyant means. I haven't unfolded and fell into it correctly. Through the feeling, I'm correct with the feeling, but I may not have just put it into quite the right words.
That's
So
right.
just correct it. And you know, and sometimes when we're using words, and this comes up a lot, and I was speaking about this in the class last week, is that sometimes your recipient has a different understanding of the words you're using to you. So in that case, then I just say the same thing, but in different words, but I'm only saying the same thing, really.
I love it, but
Yeah.
it just like a light bulb. Another thing that you strengthen in me, which I think is brilliant, is how you tie in and meet the need with the message in the end.
That's
Ooh.
right. That's right.
I remember
Now,
the first time I heard you, I was like, oh,
yeah.
what?
You know, you see, I think we do insult the intelligence of the spirit world. They're very clever. I was always taught the spirit world will give you as much as possible to give. Sorry, they'll give you as little as possible to give you as much as possible. And you know, I often listen to the messages at the end of an evidence in a contact, and I think that's not the message the spirit world want to bring at all. And what the spirit world will do, and even some of the top teachers, some of, if I name names, many of you would know them, who I taught them exactly this. In that evidence, the spirit world will bring a piece of evidence that you can then use symbolically to turn and lead you into the message that's needed. Quick
Power.
example. I was in Sweden working, and I went to a young man, he was about 18 on the back row, went to him with his grandfather, and I said, you have a mint condition silver coin in a presentation box belonging to your grandfather. What's he brought that for? I said, first of all, tell me, do you have it? I'm expecting him to say something different. I said, you'll get something different when you tell me whether you have it or not. And he says, yes, I do have that article as you described belonging to a grandfather. I said, right. Now, the reason he's brought that was one, for evidence, but also to lead me into talking to you about your financial situation. Oh, well, that's what I wanted him to say in the first place. Yeah. So the grandfather bought that coin because he wanted to speak about money and the financial situation of his grandson. And can you see that? It's so they're very clever, the spirit world, you know, and I do think we insult the intelligence sometimes, you know. It's really do. It's
Mhm.
I
And
don't know.
then another thing I like is how you structure the progressive. So we have one class a month, and it's a 6-hour class.
Mm,
And obviously, based on the need of the group, you decide what we're going to teach, what you're going to teach. And, you know, we spend 6 hours in and out of breakout rooms. You're doing lecture, whatever it is that
yeah,
you're doing. And now we have a whole month to work on that. And
that's right. That's right.
into what
And,
we're
and, and
doing.
what and what I try to do in each class is, you know, sometimes some classes that they just constantly put you in a breakout room, and the teacher doesn't really know what you're doing. You just come back and tell us you've done wonderful, and we don't know. So I like to balance each class out, where yes, you'll do some breakout room work, but every class, in one way or another, I will also look and listen to everybody as an individual as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's important. That's why you limit the class to 16 students.
That's right. That's right.
Because you want to be able to observe and meet their development needs.
That's
And
right.
so that's pretty brilliant. But, I think that this works. I mean, in my observation and facilitating and watching and being in the background, by the 6th or 7th month, I see a difference.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's like they'll also get, if they occasionally, sometimes something comes, they have to miss a class, they'll have the recording of it. But really, after the class, before the next month's class, they should really go through and listen to the recording again, even if they've been present, because they're hearing it in the class, but the mind doesn't always absorb or understand it all as it's being given, and then they can hear it again afterwards. I really think that makes a difference. But yes, it is important that whatever we're doing in that particular month's class, they try to put those particular exercises into practice, ready for when we move to the next class. And if I'm correct, I think, and then you're going to, in the class, are you following up with practice group?
I do. I have a practice group the week after the class.
That's right.
Together for about an hour and a half. And there is a student chat in a classroom where all of the recordings go. So they're all in contact together and they can share, they can talk.
Okay.
And, if they want to work together, that's good. And you encourage that. But at the same time, sometimes we bring in sitters because they're always working together. You kind of get to know, that's big for you, that you say they get to know each other's dead people. So bringing in a is good as well to flex those muscles. And so this year, what I like that you did is you broke it down. So you have a Saturday progressive, which is intermediate to advanced, and then Sundays you have an advanced to professional.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Okay. But like the two groups, maybe they can join together in the monthly practice group in between the classes with me. Yeah. And then with the Sunday group, then we've got the two intensive where it's you've got like your 12 Sundays, but there'll be 2 weekends where they'll get a Sunday, Monday and Tuesday, so they actually get the 16 sessions, not just the 12 monthly one.
That's right. And we're together for 3 days, twice.
And as they progress during the year also, we bring in the outside public for them to work with outsiders with the sittings, and bigger audience for the demonstrations as well.
But this was wonderful. If anybody's interested or drawn to work with Paul, research him. There's tons of interviews. Like Paul says, just don't choose because you think it's a good idea. Feel that that's the tutor you should be with. You say that a lot, Paul, because it's true. You have to trust your teacher, and you have to make sure that you're going to be able to grow and nourish your mediumship with this person.
And don't forget, if you look today, there's thousands of so-called mediums out there today. Okay, so when you're coming to me, I'm looking to try and move you to that something that bit more than the general thousands that are out there. So if that's what you'd like to achieve and be within mediumship, then come to me. If you want to be just one of the general thousands, then maybe I'm not the right tutor. Okay, so we have to be fair and we have to be honest and say that. Yeah, it's.
And I'll tell you what, it took me a minute to get Paul online. Paul is very cool, like in person, and I'm very happy that we have the gift of having him online, because he's taught in Arthur Finley, he's taught in House of Spirit. He has experience 30 years plus. And again, like that connection, obviously COVID happened, but that's not why Paul wasn't online. Paul is a very a teacher that likes to connect in person. So I'm happy that we have him now online, bringing his expertise again as a tutor from Arthur Finley and in his own right. And I appreciate that, and I'm happy that you've come online, Paul. So anybody that's guided to work with you, reach out to me. You can email me at lillianmedium@gmail.com. You can message me and find me on all social media platforms. Again, that's lillianmedium.com. If you have any questions or want details on his progressive, I'll be more than happy to expand that for you.
And if it's the Saturday one they're interested in, or the Sundays ones they're interested in, yeah.
And let me know if it's Saturday, which the hours for Saturday is 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. And that would be what UK time, Paul?
1 p.m. till 7 p.m.
And then Europe time?
That will be 2 p.m. till 8 p.m.
And then our class on Sunday is from 10 a.m. Central Standard Time to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. So those are the hours. We try to start a little earlier on Saturdays to give an opportunity for those that are in different time zones to join. But again, that is intermediate to advanced. And then the Sunday progressive is advanced to professional. Thank you, Paul, so much for your time.
My pleasure, Lillian. My pleasure. Okay.
And we'll be looking out for more interviews, and look for Paul on YouTube because he has many, many interviews with his wise words. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lillian.
Bye.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.